Morant with a running start. Elevate! Oh, it dunks! Oh, my goodness!
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone! Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now a three. Count it! A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant! Oh, he hit it! John Morant, insanity!
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. My name is Keith Parrish. I am back at home in Nashville. I had a good trip to Las Vegas for Summer League. It was, in fact, exhausting, but it's fun. Got to see a lot of basketball. But now I am ready to rest a little bit, recuperate, and, of course, keep watching Memphis Grizzlies basketball because Summer League keeps rolling on. They played their 6th Summer League game, their 3rd in Las Vegas, and they lost to the Los Angeles Clippers 83-74. They've now lost 2 straight games. After winning their first 3 games where you had Lofton, LaRavia, and Roddy, they've now dropped 2 in a row. Is this the impact of losing Vince Williams Jr.? Perhaps. Once they lost Vince, everything kind of fell apart. But no, it was a ragged game. It was a hard-fought game. I think the Grizzlies played great defense in this game, but 23 turnovers for the Grizzlies and also 23% three-point shooting. That is a difficult formula for getting the victory. A notable thing or an interesting angle to this most recent game is they started Nathan Hoover, who you might be saying, who? I know I was. Nathan Hoover is from Memphis. He played high school basketball in Memphis. So there's a fun local interest story, I guess. He played at Wofford for college. He was overseas. He's played in Spain and in Belarus. He got the surprise start, so hey, hometown kid makes good. Apparently he was a Rudy Gay fan. I asked him after the game because he said he grew up a Grizzlies fan. I'm like, who's your favorite Grizz from the Grind era? He picked Rudy Gay, which I guess is fine. But Nathan Hoover started, and the Grizzlies lost the game. They got big performances again. I mean, from Kenneth Lofton Jr. Kenneth Lofton Jr., I still am being extremely picky and wanting him to have a dominant game from start to finish. This game, he was mostly dominant. I mean, he made 8 of his first 9 field goal attempts. He finishes with 24 points. He did, however, turn the ball over 7 times. And specifically, before Summer League started, on my list of requests or things I was watching out for, can Lofton go off with these like Nikola Jokic offensive stat lines as far as like making a bunch of his field goal attempts. I mean, he was 9 out of 12. That counts. But I also wanted to see him do that while not committing a ton of turnovers and a ton of fouls. And he had 6 fouls, 7 turnovers. Now, a couple of the turnovers were offensive fouls where the calls were highly questionable. One was just a absolutely incorrect call. But Lofton did turn it over at least 3 times where he got double teamed and he was just trying to swing it to the corner. So there were some miscommunications and also some bad passes. He just whipped him way too high and out of bounds. So while Lofton keeps doing awesome stuff, like he hit another 3-pointer, he, can take the ball coast to coast off a defensive rebound and score off that. He can, of course, score just on bully ball in the post. He's been really, really good. When I hold up my extremely picky microscope, I guess, I'm like, yeah, but still the turnovers and the fouls. I want to see a perfect game. Maybe that's asking too much. But Lofton has absolutely been a dominant force for the Grizzlies in Summer League. He's been the best player for the Grizzlies, and we keep falling back to the, what do you do with him in the regular season? I think he's earned a chance. there's going to be games where Steven Adams or Xavier Tillman don't play because of injury or whatever, or like Jaren Jackson Jr. sits out second half of back-to-back. I think we're going to see Lofton play as like that fill-in big. Does he ever play when like Santi Aldama, Xavier Tillman, Brandon Clark, and Jaren Jackson Jr. are all healthy and available? I don't know. I think he's earned a chance like to try it out because of how just strong I think his offensive play has been. He's working hard on the defensive end. He's getting better, it seems like. His rebounding maybe could use a little bit of work, but like he's battling. You can watch it in all these games, especially if you're up close, and maybe not what you're focused on when you're watching on TV, but up close we can tell like this guy is really putting forth a lot of effort in the interior on box outs, shoving guys around, playing defense. And so that part has been really good to see. And like he's hitting the three-pointers, he's scoring as we know he can. So Lofton Jr. had another really good game outside of too many turnovers, and that's been great to see. As far as the other regulars like LaRavia and Roddy, LaRavia had 22 points. He did a good job of scoring off the dribble, scoring in a variety of ways. His three-point shot still not very good. The first three-pointer he made in this one was maybe the toughest shot he's made in all of Summer League, but he goes 2 out of 7 on threes and just not a consistent shooter. I mean, he's known as a shooter, but just the shots don't go in, and we don't care that much about, I guess, like Summer League sample sizes. Making or missing a bunch of threes in Summer League has no predictive value, basically, to the NBA, I believe is what the statisticians and analytics people say. Like, it's just all random. But it would certainly be more reassuring if LaRavia was dropping three-pointers. Like, if LaRavia made three-pointers as advertised, he'd be really, really good. But so far, he hasn't really hit the three-pointers. But scoring 22 points and having some nice defensive moments, those were a highlight for Jake in this game. Roddy continues to struggle from three. He missed all 4 of his three-point attempts. David Roddy scores 8 points on 11 field goal attempts. That's obviously not good. He was a bit of a playmaker, finishes with 6 assists, but also 6 turnovers. Some of that was just maybe the ragged nature of the game. Some of that was the officials were letting everything go. There was a lot of uncalled contact early in the game, particularly. But Roddy now has missed 15 of his last 17 three-pointers. He was 4 out of 9 in the very first Summer League game in Utah. Since then, he's 2 for 17, and he's down to 23% on threes in all of Summer League. Now, I was talking with someone at the Grizzlies game about this, that like maybe Summer League is not the best showcase for LaRavia and Roddy just because of their games. Their type of contributions are going to be more like fifth guys. Like whatever lineup they're in, they're a connective piece. They're never going to be a primary scoring or even a secondary or tertiary scoring option. They're never going to be leaned upon for shot creation or for initiating the offense. They're fifth guys. And because of that, Summer League maybe isn't the best opportunity for them to showcase or look that good. They're better off playing next to good players. Yes, of course, I guess that's an obvious statement. Everyone looks better off playing next to good players, but we think hopefully that Roddy and LaRavia can just fit in as like a fifth option on the court if it is alongside guys like Kennard and Marcus Smart, and then, of course, Bain and Jackson, and then when Ja's back. They just need to fit in. As far as being primary options, it hasn't been that pretty of a Summer League for any one of them. Now, Junior, he's built for being the primary option in NBA Summer League. G.G. Jackson in this game had a horrific shooting performance. He missed all 7 of his three-point attempts. He airballed a lot of them. His overall three-point shooting for Summer League dipped all the way to 32%. Of course, that's small sample size theater. You miss 7 three-pointers and your three-point percentage goes from 40% to 32%. He has, I think, throughout Summer League. So he's made now 32% of his threes. I'm pretty sure he's airballed 32% of his threes. He has a lot of airballs. He had one from the top of the key that ended up like outside of the paint. It landed so far from the basket. I asked Vitaly Potapenko, like, what did you think about his game, and what do you say to a guy where that's might be his like worst professional game or worst organized basketball game he's had? Potapenko said he played good defense and he took open shots. I mean, coach is not very loquacious. There are a lot of short answers, but he said, hey, you know, he played good defense and he took the right shots you're supposed to. Just sometimes they don't go in. So that's fine to see. But rough outing for Gigi Jackson. And, of course, he's now up to 63 field goal attempts in Summer League and 1 assist. That's in 6 games. Jacob Gilyard is kind of the opposite. He had 1 field goal attempt for the entire game. Jacob Gilyard did not score. He missed his only 3-point attempt. He got some assists. And also this game, they felt like they went a little deeper with the bench. Not only did, of course, Nathan Hoover start, but you had Joel Ayayi playing. Matthew Hurt got in. Frankie Ferrari was playing. Some pretty ugly minutes with those lineups in the first half. They did have a nice little sharp kind of moment where everything was clicking in the second half, but it felt like they were going a little bit deeper into the bench and playing those guys a little bit more. Tariq Baberovich made his only field goal attempt. It was a corner 3-pointer, except his toe was on the line, so that only counted as a 2-pointer. And overall, I guess, like what we're trying to take away from this Summer League is we want to see leaps being taken from Roddy and LaRavia, and I would say we haven't seen that, right? We haven't seen like a leap. We talked about it before Summer League saying we want to see if any of these guys can seize the opportunity in this battle for small forward minutes. I think based on Summer League, you'd have to say Zaire Williams, by not playing, has like raised the odds of him being maybe the opening night starting option at small forward. I think Vince Williams Jr. sees the opportunity, except he only played 2.5 games because of this injury. He, of course, did not dress out again for this game. But it's a wide open battle for those small forward minutes. I think it's possible they start Kennard on opening night. My options right now, I feel like if I was handicapping it as far as like a betting line, I would say opening night starter at small forward for the Memphis Grizzlies, or 5th starter, assuming Bane, Marcus Smart, Jaren Jackson Jr., and Steven Adams are healthy. 5th starter odds, I'm going to say something like Zaire's plus 150, Luke Kennard's plus 200, Roddy's plus 200, and then everybody else is like plus 400 or something. Now, I'm not a professional handicapper, so maybe those odds are off. But I think Zaire might actually be the most likely to start opening night now. Of course, there are still some Summer League games where maybe Roddy and LaRavia go off. Maybe Roddy should have better odds than Luke Kennard. I don't know. But he hasn't exactly like wowed us and been like, oh yeah, second-year leap is coming from David Roddy. I don't think we can say that with his overall performance. And as far as the roster now that these trades have officially gone through, the Phoenix Suns and Grizzlies intriguing pick swap trade happened where Isaiah Todd came over from the Suns. That is the 17th guaranteed contract for the Grizzlies. They picked up Josh Christopher, of course, and Isaiah Todd. So now the Grizzlies have 17 guaranteed deals. That's the second most guaranteed deals for any team in the NBA. Only the Thunder have more guaranteed salaries right now. So the roster is obviously full. If they don't make any other trades or moves, they're going to have to cut a couple guys. It's a pretty easy decision right now. You just cut Todd and Christopher. I don't think those guys were brought in for their basketball abilities. I believe they were brought in to facilitate the trades that the Grizzlies wanted to happen. Todd was part of the deal where the Grizzlies get this like long shot chance at improving their first round pick in 2024 and 2030 with that strange pick swap between the Suns and the Wizards. And then Christopher, of course, brought in as the price to pay to get a Dillon Brooks trade exception. And finally, I guess, talking about the Dillon Brooks trade exception, I don't mind telling you that I frankly was confused or didn't fully understand why the Dillon Brooks trade exception was only around $8 million. I knew it had something to do with Dillon Brooks's last contract or what the money he was making last year, but I didn't know why. And one of the fun things about being in Vegas Summer League is you get to run into people and talk to people and hang out. And I actually got to ask this. It came up sort of organically in conversation, talking with Larry Kuhn, who's one of like the guys who helps explain the salary cap to NBA teams. He created that CBA FAQ website where it was like the basic, here's how you understand the CBA. When we were just joking about how confusing the NBA's collective bargaining agreement is and how confusing the trade and salary rules are. And I was saying, like, yeah, I don't mind admitting that I follow the NBA daily. I podcast about it all the time, and there's still things that I'm confused about, and I can't even figure out how to look them up. And one of them is like, I don't know exactly the reason why Dillon Brooks' trade exception is so low. And he helped explain it to me, which was great. And maybe if you don't fully understand, I'm sure some of you already understand this, but for those of you who don't, I'll give you just the basic understanding as far as I comprehended it, and it'll help us understand a little bit about the NBA a little bit more, or a little bit more clearly. The reason Dillon Brooks' trade exception is not based off the contract he signed with the Rockets, where that starts at $22.6 million for next season. The reason the Grizzlies trade exception is not based off of that is because they don't want teams signing guys to outsized contracts maybe they don't deserve for the sole purpose of trading them. For example, let's say an over-the-cap team like the Lakers or somebody you wanted to trade for, I don't know, like Cam Johnson. If this base year compensation rule for sign-and trades wasn't in place, you could say, all right, well, we, the Lakers, are going to pay Troy Brown Jr. $30 million per year, even though he's basically a minimum player, because we want to use that matching salary to trade for like an all-star or trade for Cam Johnson and pay him his full max on a restricted offer sheet. So if that was allowed to occur, then you could basically circumvent the salary cap or circumvent the reasons that the salary cap exists or the trade rules exist by saying, hey, I'm going to sign a guy I have bird rights on to a massive contract just so I can use that as matching salary. So because of that, the traded player exception that you get when you do one of these deals is going to be based off the previous year's salary. So the Grizzlies traded player exception was a little bit larger than what Dillon made last year. And then, of course, we understand they have to subtract the contracts of Isaiah Todd and Josh Christopher from that, and that's how it ended up. It's like $11.4 million minus $2 million minus $2 million or so. That's how we ended up right about $8 million. So that made sense to me, and I felt happy to be like, oh, okay, I get it now. That's what I was confused about. So hopefully if you were confused out there, that clears it up a little bit. Of course, there's a good probability I explained that poorly and got some of the details absolutely wrong, but that was my understanding. If I got it wrong, I will blame the heat of Vegas for frying my brain. The Grizzlies play the Lakers on Friday night. Based on the way Kenneth Lofton Jr. was talking after the game, it sounds like he's planning to play again. He's pretty disappointed that they've gone 1-2 in Las Vegas, so maybe it'll be another opportunity to see all the guys go again. Maybe Vince Williams Jr. will actually play again. That remains to be seen. But that is all I have for this episode. Not a lot to talk about based on that game. I guess I can go and wrap it up with the Summer League three-point percentages for the Grizzlies right now. We always, kind of look at the three-point percentages, and it's something we care about greatly. I'd like to repeat myself that these stats don't really mean anything. It's such small volume, but I was adding them all up and looking over at Real GM. They have the Summer League stats compiled. The Grizzlies have 6 players who've taken at least 23-pointers in Summer League. The most accurate has been Jacob Gilyard. He's made half of his 23-point attempts. He's 10 for 20. Vince Williams Jr. is 9 for 21. That's 42.9%. Kenneth Lofton Jr. is 40.9% in Summer League, 9 for 22 on threes. Gigi Jackson, like I said, down to 32.4%. He's 12 out of 37. Jake LaRavia is at 31% on three-pointers in Summer League, 14 for 45. And David Roddy, 23%, 6 out of 26. So hopefully we get a little small sample size tick up in the next game if those guys can drill some three-pointers. Anyways, thanks you guys for listening. Please, if you haven't already, subscribe to the Grits and Grinds YouTube channel. Hope you have a good weekend. I will talk to you soon. Go Grizz.